Tired of nobody letting your voice be heard? Well, hop on over to anchor.fm and sign up free to begin your next step in podcasting, where you can be free to speak up and shine out. And with their help in distribution and large bandwidth, you have the tools and resources needed to be heard and maybe even find some like-minded individuals. And with the voice message sharing tool, your fans can easily reach out to you for any added content. And with the subscription option, they can show their support and love.
Heroes Angel here, and I'm glad you are too. Listen, before we get started, just wanted to remind everyone listening that you too have a voice. So please, hop on over to my Facebook and my Twitter page, FU Podcast, and let me know what's on your mind for a chance to be featured in one of my next podcasts. Enjoy.
Fan fiction versus copyright infringement. Lawful or unlawful? Tell me your thoughts. Fan fiction, by definition, is a creative art form heavily influenced by other creative works within the point of view and/or the fantasy thought up by the fan fiction author. A lot goes into fan fiction, such as coming up with a what-if scenario and thinking of which character would best or least work depending on the story's build-up or outcome. Then from there, you have to make sure it makes sense considering the character's profile, personality, as well as their place of origin. And if placed outside their normal world, the new world must have ways to accommodate that or make up why they're outside of their world in the first place. Fan fiction is not that much different from regular fiction. Literally, the only difference is the names included in the original work. Take 50 Shades, for example. Everyone's familiar with that one. It was once a fan fiction between Edward and Bella, based off of Twilight, as if they were humans and in a type of BDSM fantasy. But once it gained popularity on Wattpad, a book deal was made, and the only change she had to make were their names within the story. The rest was pretty much the same. I mean, sure, some few edits was probably made, but now there was a point in time in which ideas were considered copyright, such as if the idea of a robot invading Earth was used, then it couldn't be used again. However, thanks to tvtropes.org, there is literally no idea too original anymore. Don't believe me? Pull up the fantasy section on Kindle. It's all been done before. Even the execution of stories have began to run about the same. Names and personalities within characters as well. There is no originality anymore, whether it's about books, music, games, or even talk shows. There's always a variant of each other, and most are exactly the same. However, with an overpopulated server like Earth, it's not surprising anymore. Fanfiction seems to be the only escape artists have left to express themselves in order to stand out from the rest. But even now, it's become way too oversaturated. Luckily, it requires real, original skill to do so, so only the best are able to shine through at this time. So as you can see, it's a pretty tricky SOB. Here's a list of examples to check out so you can maybe judge for yourself if whether or not fan fiction should be allowed some form of monetization, whether that be an affiliate program or based on views or whatever, because a lot of the work that goes into these works really does deserve some form of recognition or praise. Like on fanfiction.net and Wattpad are the two most popular platforms to go for if you want to read fan fiction or even just be a part of it. Because on fanfiction.net, there is Fearless Goddess 2, Adam Outen, and Katie Rose. Those are some of the top authors I like on that site. And on Wattpad, I am currently actually reading Lily Ferris's Zelda fanfiction, Season of the Witch, and so far, I have to say it is really good. And the thing about fanfiction.net is you gotta try to ignore the low reviews, because a lot of times, in the review will tell you how much of the story that person has read. The review, a lot of times, they're not past even the title page, which makes them hateful for no reason. And on Wattpad, you got more of an uplifting environment for both reader and writer because it's a supportive community filled with a lot of genius works. And Wattpad, you kind of have to expect it to be a little bit more positive, and that's solely because agents are now looking at Wattpad for their next writer to support. How is copyright involved exactly? Well, sadly, intellectual law does not protect fan fiction. Essentially, the authors who created these are not allowed to earn a cent from their works solely because it's a fictional work based off of already published/produced works. Copyright states that the use of characters and/or public figures is prohibited in use except in cases of educational purposes and works of fan fiction open to the public under the public domain law, unless express written permission was granted by the publisher or producer or author involved. And a lot of times those works are bought out by those creators with their names removed in order for the publisher or producer to claim it as their own, which that can pay out in loads of cash, sure. But however, most artists want at least some recognition for their talents. So why is copyright involved? I'm guessing to keep everyone from being too creative. Because if you think about it, there's going to be a time when there's nothing left to write except alterations of previously published works. I just fear how much more tighter this copyright rule is going to get, because there are only so many names in the world that make sense and only so many traits to give to certain characters. There's only so many worlds you can build, so many storylines you can follow. There's got to be a line somewhere that we're about to cross, especially with everybody being creative nowadays. To me, fan fiction is a way for artists to express how much they enjoyed what is that they're borrowing. If you think about it, the reuse of some popular tropes could even be called fan fiction as well, because they're being redesigned by a fan. And other times, the artist would just like to explore certain possibilities with various what-if scenarios. To be honest, I'm not seeing much reason to not let these artists thrive, because technically they're being reimagined. I mean, no one laid into Walt Disney for publicly ripping off the Grimm brothers or Hans Christian Andersen before Walt Disney's works was fully copyright, and just way before the Grimm brothers and Hans Christian Andersen's works were placed into public domain. So, I mean, if this business can do it, then why stop others from doing it as well? And needless to say, these creators, despite borrowing previous works, are still putting in the time and effort needed to bring forth these fan fiction arts. And you all know that old saying, time is money. And granted, all you would need to do is just rename the characters and locations. But I mean, you shouldn't even have to do all that, because by then, it just won't make any sense. And if you do that because of most stories were built around that specific character and or are as involved, none of it would still make sense unless you just completely change the story altogether. So, I mean, it really shouldn't even be done. But be sure to let me know what you think about it, because maybe I'm just not seeing it, or maybe you have some better pointers to kind of argue it. But also, be sure to check out my patreon.com/heroesangel page and show your support. And also, I am new on Amino, and I have a podcast community that you might also enjoy.
Well, that's the end of today's show. Again, you can find this cast on Spotify, CastBox, and Anchor. And if you enjoyed today's show, be sure to let me in on your thoughts, and I'll see about adding them in my next podcast. Peace out, stay vocal.